My name's Tom DiNardo. I am the Wine Zealot, and on today's show we're going to be exploring a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I'm an amateur mycologist, and mycology is the study of mushrooms or fungus. Today we're here with Garret with Cascadia Mushrooms. Now, Garret's been with the company for a number of years, and what's really cool is that they're now the only company that I'm aware of in Whatcom County and perhaps in Northwest Washington that actually cultivates some of the mushrooms that we're really fond of, such as oysters, shiitake, and they also have a crew that goes out and harvests wild mushrooms such as chanterelles and lobster mushrooms, which we talked about. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Garret Bays a few questions. And again, Garret is with Cascadia Mushrooms. So Garret, how long were you working for the company?
Since 2011.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and I was volunteering about a year and a half before then, just because Alex was my friend.
Did you have any formal education or training in mushrooms, or were you kind of taught?
No, I mean, I taught myself back, I want to say like 98, 96, somewhere around, 96, 98, how to grow mushrooms at home, but I had to start from scratch because at that time there wasn't a lot of kits and there wasn't a lot of information online. So I was learning it all from books, so Paul Stamets books, things like that.
And now Paul Stamets is also a mycological expert who's down in Olympia, Washington. Now what I really want to ask Garret about, and we'll have Garret explain this to us, tell us about how you make the blocks and what the process is when you inoculate the blocks.
So these blocks are actually alder sawdust, and they come from the waste of an alder mill down south, and they call us up. It's all natural wood. It's not grown in farms. It's not there's no additives to it, so it's organic. And we get the sawdust and we amend it with grains and bran and other things to bring the nutritional value up for the mushrooms. Really, we're bringing the sugars up because mushrooms convert sugars, and just like we do, actually, their DNA is closer to humans than it is to plants.
That's amazing.
And the way that the way that they decompose and break down foods is the same way. They're just doing it on the outside, but we do it on the inside.
Now, I noticed that there's water in here. Have you added the water yet?
No, this water was the original water we added when we wetted the sawdust.
Okay.
So, as anything, it needs to be moist before you can grow anything on it. So
when it's in the bag, what do the people do when they buy the bag like that?
So
what's the next step?
When they get this kit, they're going to take it home. They're going to put a plate. Say there's a big dinner plate here in a rack, like a bread rack.
Okay.
You put the kit on the bread rack, and you go ahead and just poke holes, maybe 4 or 5 around the block, kind of spaced evenly. And what that does is the mushrooms immediately know, or the block, which is the body of the mushroom, immediately knows that there's oxygen now available. Mm-hmm. And so what they'll do is they'll start actually sending all the nutrients up to those areas that have holes in them, and they'll make what's called a mycelial mat.
So we talked about mycelium before, and what's really cool here that Garret is basically saying what Cascadia Mushrooms has done is more or less created, I don't want to say artificial because it is a legitimate, real mycelium and a growth medium for the mushrooms to basically grow. So these are shiitake, and I'm assuming these over here are the oysters or chlorella species, correct?
Yes, these are the oysters. Yeah, no, so the process is basically what we did is we basically, any mushroom grower, they study how the mushrooms grow in the wild, and we just use that to our advantage, and we mimic that inside of our grow space. And so, there's no artificial anything aside from just the fact that we're using maybe artificial light. But the light, since they don't photosynthesize, is more for developing vitamins, is more for developing the shape and the color of the cap. We were probably producing, about 2,500 pounds a month, I would say. Yeah, about that. Between 20 and 2,500 a month.
Thank you again for the wonderful lesson in mycology.
Of course.
And about mushroom cultivation. Garret, it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks.